Hey, everybody. It's been a while since we have done one of these. Forgive me, my life has been a little chaotic and hectic, but in a good way, mostly. The phone lines are open. We'll do maybe a little over an hour tonight. So if you want to talk about anything that's on your mind, it's not like there aren't enough things in the world to talk about. And we're doing the On a Tangent just for you. This is tonight's going to be separate from the regular audio podcast, which has been getting a little bit of feedback. This week's show is me playing audio recordings from my Christian radio past and defending, I don't know, the war on Christmas and Mike Huckabee and selling Christian concerts and talking about missions work. And it's just as bad as you might anticipate. It's horrible. But it's there, and I threw myself out there just for you. So you can find the Thinking Atheist podcast on all major podcast apps. You can go to Spreaker. That's where it originates. Apple Podcast, all the big ones. You can find it there. And then I released a version of it on YouTube. Some people don't like audio only content on YouTube because YouTube is obviously a visual medium, but other people dig it. So I'll keep doing it. What does it cost me? Right? And just throw it up there. I am watching with satisfaction, well, mild satisfaction, this story about Jeff Bezos and his Venice wedding plans. I swear, these freaking oligarchs, especially Elon Musk, and they're talking about, austerity. We got to cut back. We need to cut costs. And every time I turn around, there's a new SpaceX rocket that's supposed to be part of this fantasy Mars recolonization thing, and it blows up to the tune of billions of dollars. And I'm like, Jesus, I mean, I swear. First of all, anybody who has talked to anyone at NASA, anybody who's an astronaut, anybody, I think many appreciate what SpaceX might have contributed on some level to our technology, the space program, human exploration. But nobody thinks we need to go to Mars and live there. This is just like some weird box in Elon Musk's head that he just activates. It's totally untethered from anybody else. And I'm like, how many squillions of dollars have been wasted? What could that have done? Who could have been helped? What medicines might have been funded? What research could have been supplemented? How many mouths could have been fed? How many homes could have been built? And instead, all the time, it's nothing but flame and fire and failure for a mission that is just bullshit to begin with. I'm sorry. He thinks there's a population problem. I'm sorry. A population problem here? There's 8 billion of us. So we're going to, and he's like, well, let's go terraform Mars and make it hospitable and livable for humans. And the rest of us are looking at this supposed genius going, hey, Einstein, why don't we terraform this planet? Hey, why don't we take the resources and fix the planet we already live on? And if we fuck this one up this bad, what makes you think we're not going to do the same thing to Mars? I swear to you, it just makes me crazy. Anyway, the oligarchs, these people have more money than God, and the obscene shit they do with it. And occasionally to see, I mean, do I get a little schadenfreude whenever a SpaceX rocket explodes? I'll admit I'm guilty. I do. Boom. I'm sorry. It's not because I want to dismiss all of the hardworking people who are wanting to advance us toward human exploration. It's that I hate seeing bad people prosper. Does that make sense? Like if Donald Trump, we know it's because, first of all, he's a 5-time draft dodger, wants to play Army. 2, he thinks that powerful men, the great kings of the world, are all conquerors. So he wants Greenland and Canada, and he wants to blow shit up somewhere else. 3, he wants to distract from all the horrible things that are going on here inside the borders of the United States. So we supposedly take out what might have been potential nuclear weapons, which have never, ever, ever been demonstrated to exist. They have a nuclear program, but they've been saying for decades, this is the WMDs of Iran, right? And I'm going to come back. You know what? No, let's talk about it now. So without just unilaterally, he just decides. And the feckless Congress is like, how did this happen? What's going on there? I mean, just radio silence. Hello, war powers. AOC's right. It's time for impeachment. And today he's like, was it yesterday? He's like, well, I have brokered peace. I'm sorry, in the Middle East. Trouble in the Middle East has been the headline since the history of headlines. Okay. Donald Trump just declared that peace has been achieved. And then today he woke up and he scratched his ass and he looked around and said, oh, shit, we don't have peace. But I have declared we have peace. Why do we have peace? I do not understand this. I passed the test, the cognitive test that said I should know these things, man, woman, camera, TV, or whatever that test was, right? I'm a super genius. So today he's like, oh, the problem is, what was the quote? They don't know what the fuck they're doing. And the media loses its mind, not because this, Mango Man Karen has essentially gotten this into another forever war and set into motion all kinds of shit that I don't even know if we're ever going to be able to undo. But instead of being totally freaked out about that, they're having the national debate right now is whether or not a president should use the F word. God, we're distracted by the bright, shiny object, aren't we? Just dumb shit, just unbelievable. Anyway, so that's going on. What was I talking about? Oh, Jeff Bezos. I'm so sorry. I'm all over the place today. I'm unprepared, but I'm ranting, and that's just part of what you get. This is posted in The Guardian. I'm just going to read this. Can I put this on screen? Hang on. Present, share screen. Yeah, I'll put this on screen. Okay. Campaigners in Venice have claimed victory after Jeff Bezos was reportedly forced to change the venue for his wedding celebrations in the city, as his guests started arriving on Tuesday for the 3-day jamboree. The main reception for the wedding of Bezos and Lauren Sanchez, a former TV journalist, was due to be held in the, I don't know how to say that, a majestic 16th century building in the city center, but according to No Space for Bezos, the couple relented after activists threatened to fill the canals with inflatable crocodiles to block their celebrity guests from entering. So they're apparently he's got people flying in and out all around. He's got I don't know how many, a shit ton of people who are flying their own private personal jets to his wedding. I don't know how many millions and tens and tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars are going to be spent on this wedding. And people are like, oh, screw a whole bunch of that, right? So what they do is they're like, you know what? We're going to put a bunch of fake crocodiles in the river. I can't help but respect that. I can't help but respect the creativity behind that. If he took a tiny fraction, he has a $500 million yacht. We talked about this last year, right? $500 million boat. And then he's got a supplemental yacht, which serves the main yacht. And I think the supplemental is close to that in price, close to $1 billion. 2 boats. 2. Imagine the good that could be done if he'd simply funneled and fueled those resources into helping your fellow human being. Oligarchs are totally disconnected from reality. Do not tell me they give a shit about common people. I don't know. I did read that Bill Gates was planning to donate almost all of his wealth to somebody. Let me look that up. Hang on. I see one call on the switchboard. You got time. Bill Gates donate wealth. The Gates Foundation. May 8th. Oh, yeah. I'll put this on screen as well. From the Gates Foundation. Bill said, when I first began thinking about how to give away my wealth, I did what I always do when I start a new project. I read a lot of books. Dot, 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 dot. On December 31st, 2045, his foundation will close its door. I will give away virtually all my wealth through the Gates Foundation over the next 20 years to the cause of saving and improving lives around the world. I'm trying to find out exactly where this goes. I guess I could sit here and read it cold all day, but you get it. Okay, props for that. Props for that. Is there such a thing as an ethical billionaire? That's a whole other conversation that we've had. I've got somebody right now, and especially with so many needs and so much suffering. I've got someone right now that I know who is going through a health crisis, who has full coverage insurance, worked for decades of their life, work hard, played the game, did it right, full coverage insurance, and there is a major medical event that may devastate them, his family, financially. How does this even freaking happen? So if we have a first world country where somebody who is paying the premiums and still might lose, I don't know what they're going to lose, the file bankruptcy, I don't know what's going to happen. Why would they have to worry about finances right now? They're worried about this heart condition. It's just ridiculous. Anyway. Okay, let's see. We'll start on the phones. Hopefully everybody can hear the sound of my voice. I've got Gail at 702. Gail, can you hear me? And can everybody in the chat hear Gail? You there?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Welcome to the show. I want to make sure everybody in the chat and everybody in the viewing and listening audience can hear you because I've been punching buttons randomly for the last half hour. Can everybody hear Gail?
Okay.
Yes, good. All right, hit me. What's on your mind?
Good. I think I'm going to totally change what you've been talking about, if you don't mind.
Please.
Because I thought this was a particularly good time for me to call in because I was listening to your podcast about your history as a radio broadcaster. And I was thinking as I listened to it, I'm older than you, a lot older than you. And my history is very different from yours because of a different era and a different time and a different experience. However, I think I have a story to tell that where we match, where we both went through an experience and ended up in a different place, and the same place, coming from very different places. So if you'd like to hear my story,
sure.
I think I need to introduce it by saying I am very old, just slightly younger than the president. That's really old. Disabled, Jewish lesbian atheist with an adult daughter who was adopted from one of Mother Teresa's orphanages about 50 years ago.
Wow.
That was when I was married to a man from India. Now, that all history probably tells you a lot about me. He and I never talked much about religion because it just wasn't important to each other. I've been fascinated by hearing your stories of religion because it was so different from my experience. I was Jewish by culture, but there was no basic religion in my family at all. And I never much thought about it. In fact, I don't even know what my parents believed because it just was never talked about. It was just never important. It was that world that you were really hoping for someday. Although I have to admit, all my friends were Catholic because we lived in a very Catholic community, and they got to go to places and do things I didn't get to do. And I wondered if I was missing out on something. They told me I wasn't, though. And you've told me they were right. At any rate, we were married. And by the way, anytime you want to talk to me about Mother Teresa, everything you said is absolutely true, but there is, like always, another perspective. Okay?
Okay.
And I have things to add to that. If you said you tell all people and they never know anything, I know a lot. Anyway, that's not what I called about. One day when I was actually living in Michigan, and my husband and I were at home, and there was a knock on the door. Now, he was raised a Hindu, but we never talked about religion either. He went through a lot of religious ritual, but I don't think it was based on belief as much as just honoring his parents who wanted him to do it. And I think that because we never talked about it, it was just something you did if you were Indian, I guess. So he did those things. But he always told me his favorite philosopher was Bertrand Russell. So that doesn't sound like a theist to me. Anyhow, this one day, there was a knock on the door, and he answered the door. And to my very great surprise, it was a couple of Christian proselytizers. My suspicion is that they were probably Jehovah's Witnesses, but this is a 50-year-old story. And before I tell you exactly about this conversation, that he invited them in, to my very, very great surprise. He offered them iced tea. We sat down in the living room, and they had this conversation. And I sat there and watched this, absolutely dumbfounded for the whole conversation. Now, one thing you have never talked about. So, Seth, I want to ask you this question. Do you know the kinds of methods that the Christian proselytizers use in places like India?
I do not.
To get okay. He had told me about this. He was a Hindu by heritage, but he knew the very small minority of Christians that were there. And what he told me was that the technique that they used was they would find very, very poor people. Remember, I'm talking about 1970s here. And the poor people were really, really poor. And he'd find very poor people. Now, in the Hindu religion, there's a whole different worldview. It's not like we have the truth and we know all about God and we want people to join us. They don't proselytize at all. What they believed is you're born and you live this life to whatever place you were born. And if you do a good job, you'll be born in a better place in the next life. And that's it. So if you went to a Hindu priest and you said, I want to convert, they'd say, why? Why don't you be whatever you were born? Right? So these people, these very, very poor people, would be approached by the standard missionaries. And the missionaries would offer them stuff. They'd say, we have the truth, the reality. We're going to save you from having to go to hell, and you'll go to heaven. And in addition to that, we're going to make your life much better. We'll give you a place to live. We have a whole colony of Christians. You can join us. We'll give you housing. We'll give you food. And we'll educate your children who are now, because education was not free then, your children wouldn't be getting educated. They'll get educated now. Well, this is a pretty good deal, right? And this is where they got the converts. And they knew they didn't get the parents. But the children, as you know very well, were raised in the Christian schools, became Christian parents who had Christian children, which was apparently the goal. So,
okay. All right. Well, let me draw you back. I'm going to try to get to a destination. So they're in your home, and then what happened?
Well, they start to have a conversation. I'm listening to this, wondering what on earth is going on. And of course, they're giving him all of the, you should convert, you should become a Christian, you should become not a Christian. Probably it was a Jehovah's Witness, and you should believe in the Bible and Jesus and all of that. And he keeps saying, if I do, what will you give me? And they say, eternal life, heaven, right? He says, no, but what will you give me? And as this conversation is continuing, I finally realized what he was doing, and the reason he'd invited them in wasn't because he was interested in the religion. He couldn't imagine having had the experience where all these Christians coming and buying people off. We're so wealthy here. We have all this good stuff. What could they possibly offer him? And he didn't know. He was trying to get them to tell. And they kept saying, eternal life, heaven. And he kept saying, no, but what would you give me now? What was the concrete thing? A chance to be part of our community. And it was absolutely amazing. As this conversation went on, and they're talking past each other over and over and over again.
I know in many mission contexts, when they're going after especially the vulnerable, they do go and find a need and meet the physical need so that then they can sort of hold them hostage for the spiritual need. A great example here in my hometown is they'll drive a bus through poor neighborhoods and pick up kids whose families are affording to hardly afford to put food on the table, and they'll cart them into a church to give them pizza parties. But the condition is they have to watch a sermon to get fed the pizza.
Right.
But the parents are like, oh, well, whatever. But I find it insidious, even if they do it with the best of intentions. Oh, we're winning souls by feeding them physically, then spiritually. It's a little odd. That popped into my head. Was there anything else before I move on, Gail?
No, that was it. I just thought you'd like to hear that story.
It's an interesting perspective. Thanks for listening and watching. Be safe out there, okay?
Yeah, you too.
All right, we'll see you. Percy, 517, you there?
Yes, here I am.
Welcome. What's on your mind?
Well, I've been thinking about, our dear leader, Donald John Trump. He has a very strong visual branding. Like, you say his name, you can almost see the suit, the tie, the shirt, everything. And, that's perhaps not unusual for like a world leader. You have your Mao Zedongs, your North Korean leaders, Gaddafi, Saddam, very striking, very strong visual presence. But now you have people dressing like him. They wear the same shade blue suit. They wear the same shade red tie. Sometimes even, they're taking photos with him or being photographed next to him. And it's just so strange to me seeing this sort of costume of dear leader that they're wearing. And I can't really think of any other case like this at least not in my lifetime, of leaders inspiring, the look like that. And just wanted to see your perspective. What do you think about this?
I don't know. It's been cult-like from the beginning. I know they have been, fabricating the golden calves, the CPAC statue, and painting their houses, and often even painting their vehicles' bodies and all kinds of things to reflect his face. Maybe this is just another incarnation of that. I don't know. Are they sucking up? Is it a religion? Are they crazy? I don't know. I mean, it's over my head, and I find it profoundly frustrating. No, I don't have a great answer for you.
Can you think of any other, say like Mao Zedong, like he perhaps were surrounded by people dressed like him, but only because there were only, two different shirts allowed.
No, I don't know of any circumstance that in my mind where someone has been dressed up like the dear leader, many of whom I know were, like Saddam and I think Kim Jong-un dresses in the blue suit that he's got.
Right.
A lot of them are military uniforms. Trump isn't officially military, but I don't know. It'd be interesting to get somebody else's perspective to see if maybe this dear leader mentality is reflected in the external attire, the external presentation of the cult members in any other context. But I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you. Sorry, Percy.
All right. Pleasure talking to you. Hail Satan, brother.
Yeah, I'll see you later. Hail Satan. See you. Oh, my God. I love the nicknames for Trump. I'll get to the next call in just a second. Mango Mussolini. The fondling father. Kim Jong-un. Cheeto Benito. Don the Con. The Tangerine Toddler. Cheetolini. There's 1,000 of them out there. I think it's important that we mock the people who take themselves so seriously. I think mockery, when we were at the No Kings protest, I'm telling you, the mockery signs are awesome. I've been debating about whether or not I'm going to have a fresh sign made. I think they're doing another one on July the 4th, Independence Day. How appropriate would that be? And I've had my one sign with the Jefferson quote, but I've been thinking about doing a new one. And I'm trying to decide just how sarcastic I want to go because I played it straight. But, there are some funny ones that also make a really, really, really good point. One of my favorites that I saw on the last event was, if we'd elected Kamala, we'd all be at brunch right now. By the way, Kamala Harris predicted that Donald Trump would get us into a war within 6 months, and it took him 5. She was Nostradamus, as far as I'm concerned. Becky, 970, hi, are you there?
Yep. Hi, I'm here.
Welcome. Let's talk. What's up?
So the pronouns. Remember George Carlin? Who could forget it? Who could forget it?
Mm-hmm.
Are you still with me?
I am
Yeah.
right here.
So the pronouns would bother George Carlin, and sometimes they bother me a little bit. When pronoun takes the place of a noun, but lately I was looking in the comments about where somebody was making a big deal about pronouns, and as were the hosts, and that was that's it, Gibbon, and the person that you always call the some kind of dog.
Oh, that sounds terrible. Oh, you're talking about Forrest
Yeah.
Valentine? I say he's a Jack Russell Terrier because of
Yeah.
his energy level, not because I think he's a dog. But go ahead. You're
No.
talking about the use of someone's preferred
Yeah.
pronouns,
Yeah.
and you're not convinced
Yeah.
that George Carlin would have thought this was a good idea?
Yeah. I think George Carlin would be just as upset as some of these other folks are, because before all the trans acceptance, and then when we get upset about pronouns, people think, well, it's naturally a trans dig. But what I think is that we just always used to have it as a normal flow. And so now, not having it as a normal flow, that's what having pronouns is, to have normal flow with your language. But now that we ask ahead, that's not having a normal flow with your language. And I guess Carlin had a bit that he did on soft language, and that's kind of what it is that we're trying so hard not to offend somebody that we just end up bringing it back on ourselves.
Well, I don't think you and I can say whether or not Carlin would have. I mean, in the context of what's been happening in conversations about sex and gender, I'm not convinced that he wouldn't have sided with those who simply want to be addressed by whatever name that they identify with, whatever pronoun that is. You and I can't know what Carlin would have said.
Yeah.
And the context of our culture does drive a lot of those conversations. I wonder, what does it cost us? Like if somebody has a he, she, they pronoun, I don't lead with that. You've noticed when I take a call here, I don't like to stop and say pronouns are. I think a lot of people put them on screen. That's fine with me. If someone has a preference, they'll tell me. I think they're momentum killers in some instances.
Yeah.
But just for the format, right? But if somebody wants to be referred to by a specific pronoun, what's that cost me? Nothing. And so I don't find it really a point of contention. I do worry a little bit that sometimes we'll put up roadblocks where if someone doesn't necessarily lead with that kind of thing, it becomes almost a test you have to pass to get through the door. And maybe that's what you're saying here. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yeah, kind of.
I don't know. If somebody wants to be referred to, identified as he, she, they, doesn't cost me anything.
Yeah.
I myself I'm not really performative about it at the beginning of a conversation. And if it matters to someone, they can bring it to my attention and we'll start again from there.
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah,
that's hard,
that's the thing.
so.
Okay, all right, yeah. Say somebody passed pretty well as a trans female, but yet somebody that was like, why can't I think? Anyway, somebody on the right that I watch that insists on, if they've known somebody as a he before, that even though it's she now, they insist on calling them he. So even if you place out and you say, I am called this, my preferred pronouns are she, these people will still, they'll still fine, and they'll just piss you off, and there's just no way to get around it totally.
I don't know what the problem is. Somebody wants to be referred
Yeah.
to by a specific pronoun. That is how they identify. I respect that.
Yeah,
And I think Carlin would
don't have a problem.
I think Carlin would probably line up on the side of, Carlin used to talk about punching down and punching up. And he used to talk about how, the little guy needs an advocate. And I think that he would probably, you and I can't bring him out of the grave and have that conversation. But, I don't know if he would have been bothered by it at all. I do know that he spoke his mind about all shapes and sides and political parties and everybody else. So it'd be interesting to hear what he said. But
I'm thinking about the transition from the words shell shock to post-traumatic stress disorder. That's kind of where that was.
But post-traumatic stress disorder is actually, I think, a better, more encompassing term. Like, I don't have a problem with us evolving our language and attitudes. So, do I occasionally find that I understand a lot of times we do this because we really want to be inclusive and we want people to really feel welcome, and we want to make sure that they know they have somebody on their side and that they have allies as they are being targeted and vilified and misrepresented. And I think there is a lot of merit and that is very important. So if somebody wants to start a conversation by saying pronouns he, her, they, them, whatever, it doesn't bother me at all. I don't do it myself because, quite frankly, if it's the kind of thing where it's a thing, they'll tell me. They'll tell me, and I don't ask a lot of other questions at the beginning of the call. I'm more interested in what's your name, what do you want to talk about? Let's go, boom, boom, boom. But if somebody wants to go there, great. As long as it doesn't become a disqualifier, a test you have to pass. You have to throw this out and answer correctly in order to continue on. I think that's fair. So,
well, that's our point, is that there's no correct, but we should just talk in flow. And if somebody makes a mistake, you correct them. And if you correct them and they don't respond, then it's their problem. Well, that's just how it always is.
Becky, I make mistakes. I mean, I was on the what show was it, On the Line or someone who had my brain is like, oh, that's a feminine voice. So I say she, and it was someone who wanted to be referred to as they, but I said she and I screwed that up and I was corrected. And I was like, oh shit. But there was no judgment. I mean, I was given plenty of grace and they were very patient with me and everybody was acting in good faith. It wasn't a problem. I just don't see a problem here. I know, let's approach people and address them as they wish to be addressed, and kumbaya. We're all human beings. Becky, are you hearing me? Are you listening to me? Are you hearing my voice?
Wrong? Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I heard a lot of talking while I was expressing my point. I want to make sure that you were.
For a second, I thought you were yelling at me. It was
no, I'm not. I'm not. At the end of the day, I think we can have both. I think we can be sensitive to how people want to be approached, and we can have momentum and flow. I think both are possible. We're all works in progress. We're all doing our best. Okay, Becky?
Maybe eventually. Yeah, maybe eventually.
And one day.
We don't have to be. Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, let's not be Ted Cruz and say our pronouns are kiss my ass.
Cruz.
So, bye.
Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
You know, if cat piss was a person, it would be Ted Cruz. You know what I'm saying, Becky? That's a whole other.
Into the microwave.
Why would you say that word? Why would you speak that name? No, that's awesome, Becky. You're much appreciated.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your heart. I
That's all
think
about.
I think
Okay.
it is a lot of times people with the very best desires and intentions, and the left likes to think that we're immune from this kind of thing, and we're not.
Yeah.
But a lot of times when we get into healthy reaction, there will always be times, or even a section of our tribe that spills into over or hyper reaction, and then they become these sort of pure ideological purity tests, and we start to shut conversations down, and we close off, and we do a lot of those types of things. And I think, is that the spirit of what I was hearing? Because I want to be fair to you, Becky, and make sure I'm hearing your voice today.
Yeah. Yeah. Tribalism is just rampant today. Just trying to get along and have your way, but not hurting other people, because everybody's really, really divided. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, let me chew on that one,
Becky. I won't take up more of your time.
Not
Thanks
at all.
so much.
And I wasn't yelling at you. Your family, Becky, and I appreciate your call very much. Okay.
Okay.
All
Thank you.
So I'm a progressive liberal atheist. And it sounds good to say that we all need to try to get along. And it's important to acknowledge we are all human beings, and we're all flawed, and we can all have terrible ideas. But I also don't believe in the equivalence argument where, well, my tribe is like their tribe is like their tribe is like their. Our values are not the same. The way we view the world is not the same. The way we treat people is not the same. And I find this is where things get really messy. I do a lot of speaking. I've done a lot of presentations on the road about how do we approach people and try to create conversations that might change minds, and how do we not be dogmatic on our own thinking, and how do we fix the world. I'm writing a speech now I'm going to be giving at the NanoCon event in Nashville, third weekend in July, and in Sarnia in August. It's called How Do We Explain This to the Aliens? And I go through, I'm literally two people giving the speech. And the first person is, we need to appeal to the better angels of our nature. We've accomplished so much. We've advanced so greatly. There are so many reasons to hope. And yes, we can move forward as a species. And then I switch and go, what the actual hell is wrong with these troglodytes? You know what I'm saying? What's happening? Now, I hold to liberal values because I think those values are superior values. I think they're more inclusive. I think they're more respectful. I think they're more pro-science, pro-humanity. And so, there are a lot of people that were like, well, can't we all just get along? The spirit of that statement is wonderful. The problem is that it's infantile thinking. There are agents of harm doing horrible things. I don't want to get along. I don't want to get along with cruel people. I don't want to get along with those people. I would like to find a way to help them, I don't know, recover, get out of have the cancer of cruelty excised from their bodies, from their hearts, from their minds, from their attitudes, so that they can be liberated themselves, because it's a better life when you're not living in hate and fear all the time. but I don't want to hold hands with horrible people. So why can't we all get along is like this weird Coca-Cola commercial. And I think it's pretty, it might taste sweet, but it's empty calorie thinking. There are ideas, there are groups, there are value systems that are just superior. They are better. Now, once we know that, and we also have to know that we are far from perfect. We are meat covered skeletons. We are evolved, knee jerky primates. And we can, I'm telling you, liberals, the liberal who tells you they're above it all, immediately they have just told you. They might as well have a t shirt on that says, I'm completely full of shit. We are all guilty of emotional thinking, of being reactive, of being reductive, of binary thinking. I'm not saying it's all equivalent. I'm not validating the opposition. I'm saying we're not gods, we're human beings. And often, for the most noble of reasons, we will end up. A great example is a lot of the information or disinformation right now that's being shared and spread and going viral about the evils that are happening in the Trump administration and the White House with ICE and all of these things. And it's rampant. It's epidemic. It's hard to believe it's even happening. It's just the awfulness is so unspeakable. And then many people on the left, and I have been guilty, will see some outrageous story about the latest atrocity that happened, and without doing one piece of fact checking, throw it out to all their people, and it's just wrong. It's either made up, it was satire, it's AI, it's something else. And so I'm like, did you source this? What is it? Where did it come from? And so I say, well, this is factually untrue. Like Trump has said an entire lifetime worth of the worst stuff ever. And somebody posts a great example is that one quote from a couple of decades ago, supposedly, where Trump said that if he was ever going to run for office, he would run as a Republican because Republicans are the stupidest people on the planet. I'm paraphrasing. It sounds like something he would say. And people still share that meme. It's gone viral. It's all over the place. He never fucking said it. He never said those words. And it matters whether or not it happened. And so I bring it to the attention of many people, of many of my fellow progressives, and I say, Trump never said this. And they're like, why would you defend that man? It sounds like something he would say immediately, right? Instead of saying, oh, thanks for letting me know. There's a lot of vetted information out there and actual words that he has spoken that I could lean to. I'll do better. Instead of doing that, they get pissed at me because they're like, well, why in the world would you say anything conciliatory about this? I'm not being conciliatory. Facts matter. We can all be agents of action, healthy action, reaction, and then overreaction. I think it's situational. It's case by case. But at the end of the day, I think when it comes to the marginalized out there, those people who are in the crosshairs, I think approaching them with grace and generosity and finding out how we can make their lives easier and better and make them feel more accepted. That seems like a no-brainer to me. And I think if Carlin was alive, he'd probably go there. I think Carlin went hard at the systems. He went hard at the cultures worldwide, but especially in the United States. But the reason he did so is because he cared so much. I'm convinced he was a man with a huge heart for people. And even his most barbed material was, I think, in many ways motivated by a desire to see humanity not be insanely stupid. He cared. You know what I'm saying? I've got a web call from Wildheart. Wildheart, are you there?
Hello. Yeah, I am in. Yeah.
What's on your mind?
I have an argument about God being arbitrary. Like, if God has always existed, then his attributes would necessarily be arbitrary.
If God has always existed, his attributes would be arbitrary. Can you explain what you mean
Yeah.
by that?
Yeah. If God has always existed, then there will be no reason why he has the attributes he does. Therefore, they will be as like all his morals and all his attributes will be arbitrary. Because the reason must come before. Do you know what I mean?
I'm not sure I'm tracking. I don't know. I'll let the comment section chew on this idea that God, if he has always existed, his attributes would be arbitrary. I'll let somebody else.
Yeah, like if God has always existed, then there could be no reason for his attributes. Because nothing would become before his reason. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't help you. I got nothing on that one, my friend. Let me, I may have to sleep on it. Maybe an epiphany will strike me, but I don't think I have enough RAM to process this one. Let me see if I can get some cues from our listeners in the chat. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for calling. Much appreciated. If God has always existed, his attributes would be arbitrary. Stephen, 717. Hi. Are you there?
Yeah, good evening. Yes, I am. It's a pleasure and an honor to speak with you.
No, you
Follow
too.
you pretty much on a daily basis.
You're very
basis.
kind.
Hey, I have a couple. I have a couple questions or comments. First, I want to express my concern for the health and well-being of Dave Warnock. I just really admire and respect that person, and I know his terminal disease will finally do him in. And I think I had contacted you recently about if you had any information on how he's doing.
Yeah, for those who don't know who Dave is, let me do a quick sort of filling in. Dave Warnock is an ex-evangelical. I've had him on the show several times. I did a video profile of him, and you can find all those on the channel. He was diagnosed with ALS and given, I think, just a few years to live. And he has outlived his, he wouldn't mind me saying, death date by several years. But his body has very much deteriorated. Every time I saw him, he had lost more function. He had lost more weight. I think the last time we'd actually encountered each other out in the wild. I think it was a couple of years ago at Baja Con, and he was struggling to walk. So I had feared the worst. I texted him a while back and I'm like, "Are you okay?" And I got like a short reply. "Yeah, I'm hanging in there. Don't worry. It's all good." And he is on the speaker lineup for NanoCon, the event in Nashville, Tennessee. So Dave is apparently well enough to take the stage. I know he's had to be helped on and off, but apparently his voice is still there and he's able to perform in a capacity where he can give a speech in front of a live audience in Nashville in that third weekend of July. So he is still kicking. And as I understand it, he's well enough to speak in public.
Mm-hmm. I must say that in addition to yourself, Dave, you're two remarkable human beings.
You're very kind. Dave is the remarkable one. He's the guy who's just, Dave.
Yeah.
Dave is one of those guys. When he got the diagnosis, he made a pledge that he was going to do as much living as he could while his body would allow him to do so. And he traveled the world, and he did, like he skydived and did all these other bucket list type items. But more than that, he put together a website and a podcast and really a message for people. Don't wait, right? Say the words, do the things, set the goals, maximize this finite time that we have on terra firma, on planet Earth. And because you just never know when you will get the diagnosis, when you don't, you may not wake up tomorrow. And so he had, his hashtag was Carpe the fucking diem. And he inspired me. to do a better job of trying to live in the moment and not waste the days. And so, yeah, I'll be hugging him along with a bunch of other people. We'll all be hugging Dave Warnock in Nashville. Looking forward to seeing him in about a month.
So I want to talk about, I'm just going to make it short and sweet and simple. Also, how do you exist there on a daily basis? I mean, with, yeah, that's my question.
How do I exist where? In Red State, Oklahoma?
In Tulsa, Oklahoma. Yeah, I mean, it's very red. And is Tulsa a blue dot in a red sea?
Fuck no. Tulsa is, look, this is Jesus town. If I threw a rock right now in any direction, it would ricochet off of 3 churches, right? I said in my book that Tulsa has, Oklahoma's known for 2 things, churches and tornadoes, and the churches are harder to escape. And that is very much true. We've got Ryan Walters, we've got Governor Stitt, we've got, it's just so freaking Jesus-y. Why do I stay here?
Oral Roberts.
Yeah, Oral Roberts University, Rhema Bible Training Center is just up the road. One of the first questions you're asked is, hey, what's your name? What do you do for a living? Where do you go to church?
Where do you go to church?
I have stayed here because my friends and family are here. I really can't afford to live anywhere else. Like to pack up and move. And if I was to try to buy this house somewhere else, I mean, to move right now, if I go someplace where the water is not brown, I can't afford to live there. I'm not a rich man. There's a part of me that likes being that pain in the ass progressive in the middle of a bunch of, Bible believing types, especially knowing that I'm more familiar with the Bible than most of the people who are telling me it's true. So I think it's healthy for them to see me in the wild. And I take a little bit of pleasure, but it's frustrating. Sometimes I fantasize that I lived in a much more progressive part of the world where I wasn't driving by so many, pickup trucks with blue American flags, the blue line, the Trump, the "Don't Tread on Me" banners, and all that stuff. That does become maddening. But ultimately, it's all first world problems. I've got a good life. I've got no complaints. So.
And how do we maintain civility? I mean, I agree with you. You have to have discourse. You have to have, but it has to be both ways. Quickly, I'll just say, I've been a member of many clubs, animal rights, welfare, and automatically you had cat people, you had dog people. We split up in tribes. It's so natural. It's part of our DNA, tribal identification.
I did a speech called, God, I've done so many. I released it last year. Why Don't Facts Change Minds? And we were talking about tribalism and identity beliefs and how almost everything becomes a dividing point, whether it's sports teams or do you drive a gas car or an EV car we find all of these little reasons to cordon ourselves off. And I think in some ways tribalism can be really healthy when you frame it as community. You find people of like minds, like interests, and you get support and community and a sense of family. But of course, the dark side of tribalism is that we speak about them in one dimension. We are reductive, we're binary. We often are shouting, not speaking, especially on the internet. And so I think it's situational. When I approach people, I have to determine, are they an agent that's working in good faith? Are they reachable? Is there a net positive to engagement, even if we have wildly opposing values and ideas? I have to go through this laundry list in my own mind. But I do think that we could all benefit from more adults in the room. Does that make any sense to you, Stephen?
Yeah, maturity.
Just, I think not surrendering to the natural desire, and I have it too, to grab them by the shoulders and say, what the hell is wrong with you? It's the Trump voters in my life. I want to physically grab them and shake them and say, what the hell is wrong with you? How could you? How dare you? And I still might.
Yeah.
But that's not going to, if I have a destination and that destination is trying to change minds, that's not going to be the path forward. And I have to realize that short-term self-gratification may be counterproductive in the long run. There may be a better way, a more effective way, and even a stronger way to approach that without, just throwing a freaking tantrum. But it's tempting because I find myself frustrated. My gut's in a knot. I can feel the vein in my forehead. I'm pissed all the time. I cannot believe this shit's going down. And you must read the headlines. You must look at the news. You must just follow the culture every day and say, how do we get here and how do we get out, right?
Yeah. How's your blood pressure?
I don't know. I need to go in for my annual and find out. I'm a little bit scared, but hey, I'll keep kicking if you will, Stephen. I appreciate you listening and calling.
I will.
Today. Okay.
I hope to meet you someday. I really do.
All right. Well, let's shake hands.
So,
I appreciate your call.
Looking forward.
All right.
Take care.
See you later. He did mention Dave Warnock, which gives me a chance to do this. Going to my own website because I have no memory. Let's see. Oh, first, let's do the shop. Go to the store. Let's see. Can you see that? Stop screen. Present. Share screen. Oh, yeah. We got stuff on the store, and I just got this added. We have the mugs, and I have my favorite quote ever on this one. Robert Greene Ingersoll's quote from Orthodoxy in 1884 on a mug. It says, "The more false we destroy, the more room there will be for the truth." Sometimes when I'm signing a book, I'll put that. And then on the other side, you can see Ingersoll's face there. And then that's a fresh add to the store. Okay, hang on. Let's see. I wanted to do the events page. So now I have to present, share screen, events. Okay. Upcoming conferences and events. NanoCon, July the 26th, Nashville, Tennessee. Candace Gorham's going to be there. Secular Rarity. April Ajoy. Now she's interesting because she is an ally, a stellar human being, and a Christian. And she's obviously can't be a Bible literalist Christian, because she's pro LGBT and she's an advocate for women, trans people, people of all nations, immigrants. She is what the best version of Jesus would have wanted a Christian to be. And I'm a big fan. I think she's fantastic. I'd love to have her on the show. And I think I might try to get her on camera when I'm in Nashville. She's an example of someone who we may disagree in theology, and we can have those spirited discussions, and we just might, but we share values. And so she's going to be speaking. Glenda Jordan is going to be talking there. She was just at the secular sexuality event. It was an online thing. Gail Jordan of Recovering from Religion. Dave Warnock, there he is. Arden Hart's going to be there. Dr. Daryl Ray and Durant Lamar speaking, and it's going to be awesome. Baha Khan, the Blue Water Atheist Humanist Agnostics event, August 8th through the 10th, and at the close to the end of the year in October anyway, the Freedom from Religion Foundation's National Convention is going to be at Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. So lots of good stuff if you want to go to the thinkingatheist.com/events. And so anyway, and then I think I may be going out to the West Coast to speak in California in October or November. Still getting details in on that website. Okay. Website. It's got it all. I'm not going to remember it. thethinkingatheist.com, and it's all there. Okay. All right. I'm going to go have a late dinner with my lovely, and we're going to cuddle the dogs. And I think we're going to rent a movie. Or maybe I can find it streaming. So the new Danny Boyle movie, 28 years later, zombie movie, just released. And I haven't seen the second one. So I talked Natalie into watching a zombie movie with me tonight. She likes zombie movies, but I'm like, hang on. Danny Boyle zombies are different zombies. And this is not a spoiler. Back when 28 Days Later released, the whole thing, I think, was shot on video. So it has a very documentary feel about it. And it was, if I recall correctly, the first time first time we saw fast zombies. Before that, it was the George Romero zombie. They walk around at the speed of litigation, right? They're really lumbering. But it was when 28 Days Later came out, and Cillian Murphy walks into the church and he sees the priest and doesn't realize the priest is one of the undead. And he turns around and he's got the rage virus and he runs like a freaking sprinter toward him. And everybody in the theater went, "Oh my God." That was the first fast zombie that I can remember ever seeing. So it's a whole different experience. And apparently the fast zombies are back in Danny Boyle's 28 Years Later, but I got to see the second film. So I am going to go sweet talk my lady and see if I can get her to watch that with me tonight. Little date movie with the dogs in our laps. In the meantime, thank you so much for spending about an hour with me, and we'll do it again soon. See ya.